This is a video about stress and anxiety and worry. It's a video about time passing and overthinking and fearing the worst. About wishing that you had control over things that you don't, and about wishing that you could slow down time. It's a video about the things that all the love and all the money in the world can't change. Many years ago, I told a doctor that I thought I was depressed, and she asked me if I had anxiety as well. And I wasn't really sure that I knew what anxiety actually was, so I asked her to define it for me. She told me that anxiety was the fear of bad things happening, that it was fearing the absolute worst outcome of every situation, even when that outcome is unlikely. My brain immediately jumped to that scene from The Simpsons where Marge has crippling panic attacks and can't leave the house after being mugged outside of the Quickie Mart.
Now, Dr. Hibbert said to use a number from 1 to 10 to describe how anxious you are.
2, 3, 2.
Don't worry, everything is fine. What the hell is that?
10, 10, 10.
I thought it meant paranoid delusions and superstitions, like thinking that you were going to be struck by lightning when it storms, or worrying about being kidnapped and murdered. So I said no, because I didn't have paranoid delusions and I wasn't superstitious, and so I figured I guess I don't have anxiety. Well, it turns out that the definition of anxiety that the doctor gave me left a lot to be desired. It's not just about extreme paranoia and phobias. Anxiety can be very rational fears too. It can be thinking about the worst possible outcome in a situation, knowing that that's not a very likely outcome, but still worrying about it. It's the ruminating thoughts that stress you out and interrupt your focus and stop you from sleeping. It's caring too much about what other people think of you. It's the lack of ability to surrender control and trust others. Anxiety can be perfectly rational and legitimate fears about what the future holds. And yeah, I've struggled with that my entire life. I've made videos in the past about my dislike of full-time work and my desire to simplify my life and spend more of my time doing things that I find to be deeply meaningful. What I don't think I've talked about is that my main grievance with work isn't my mediocre income, and it isn't the 45-minute commute, and it isn't even the difficult clients that drive me insane. My main grievance with work is the amount of time that it consumes, which takes me away from the things that actually matter to me. It's knowing that time is passing and I'm getting older. Like seriously, my hair is going super gray. I know you can't tell yet on the camera, but I've got a whole bunch of grays peppered in there. It's knowing that my mom is aging and that Levi's already 9 and that time is just passing really fast. The amount of time we have on this planet is so limited to begin with, and our loved ones are aging and maybe they're already not in the best of health. And I worry that when they're gone, I'm going to regret every time that I decide to work just one more hour or take on just one more client or try to make just a little bit more money. I'm going to regret all the time that I missed with them that I can never get back. It eats me alive knowing that while I'm spending all of this time with strangers doing things that I'd really rather not be doing, my boy is lying home alone by himself just waiting for me to come back. This guy is my pride and joy, the love of my life. To call him my best friend would be an absolute understatement. He's my partner in crime, my ride or die, the yin to my yang. To look at him, you'd never know that he was 9. Or maybe I just don't recognize the physical signs of him aging because I spend every day with him. I'm not really sure. But he's a very happy guy. He's full of beans all the time. He's energetic, he's playful, he's excited, he's outgoing, every bit as much as he ever was as a puppy. And I've done everything I can to keep him as happy and as healthy as possible. I take him to the best vet for top-notch preventative medical care. I feed him a homemade fresh food diet. We're talking my vegan ass in the basement, spending an entire day off every couple weeks, grinding up animal organs and guts, just for him. The things we do for love, you know? I groom him at home so that I can be sure that nobody ever handles him roughly or causes him undue stress. I've never even spent a night away from him or sent him to a kennel. Where I go, he goes. If I travel, he travels. I keep him active and slender and agile. I brush his teeth every single day. Basically, I've spent the last 9 years providing him with the absolute best of everything and giving him more love than most people will ever experience in their lifetime. But none of that can stop time. Maybe if we're really lucky, it slows it down a little bit, but nothing stops it. A number of weeks ago, I noticed that Levi's bottom front teeth had become loose and wiggly, and honestly, I was crushed. I know that sounds silly, but I really was. I've worked so hard to keep him young and healthy and to brush his teeth meticulously, and despite all of this, it looks like he was going to wind up losing some of them. And that's an undeniable sign that he's aging and that despite my best efforts, time can't be fought off with a toothbrush. And that's what this video was supposed to be about. It was supposed to be about my little old man going in to have his teeth removed, coming home a little gummy, and what that signifies in his current stage of life. I booked him in for the procedure, and as is standard protocol, I also booked him in for a checkup a week prior to do blood work and just generally confirm that he's safe to go under anesthesia. For those unaware, dentistry is surgery for animals. They have to be put under a general anesthesia, so a full checkup beforehand is essential. And honestly, I've had a lot of anxiety leading up to his surgery. For one thing, the vet clinic we go to is still operating in COVID protocols, which means that it's curbside drop-off and pickup. And to be totally clear, I absolutely love my vet, I absolutely trust my vet, but it's still very hard for me to just hand him off to somebody, so I've been pretty stressed about that. And I've been pretty sad about the fact that he's going to come home with missing teeth, which is an undeniable sign that my puppy's aging. And I know this sounds super silly, but sometimes when dogs lose their teeth, their tongue winds up sticking out. Basically, the teeth hold the tongue in place in the mouth, and if the teeth are gone, the tongue kind of flops out of their mouth. And I've been kind of upset at that possibility as well. I think that it makes them look goofy, but even over and above that, it's just a constant reminder that he's getting old. And so as trivial as it sounds, I've been pretty bummed out about that too. And naturally, even for the healthiest of us, there's always an inherent risk with the general anesthesia, so I've been pretty nervous about the entire procedure. Well, last week, I took him in for his preoperative exam, and it turns out that he's not having dentistry done, at least not right now, because the vet diagnosed him with a very significant heart murmur. Here I was worrying that his tongue was going to be hanging out of his mouth and he was going to be looking goofy. Meanwhile, he's got a fucking heart murmur. His breed is predisposed to something called mitral valve disease, so in the back of my mind, I've always known that's a possibility, but he's shown absolutely no signs whatsoever. Usually when dogs have MVD, they cough and they wheeze and they have reduced energy, and he's had none of that, but chances are that that's exactly what he has. I actually keep in touch with the family who has his sister, and after reaching out to them last week, I learned that his sister was diagnosed with mitral valve disease back in February, so it's pretty much a guarantee that that's what he has. Mitral valve disease is a terrible illness. Essentially, over time, the valve wears out in the heart, and so instead of being able to pump blood away from the heart as it's supposed to, blood backs up and essentially drowns the dog from the inside. Reading about it made me absolutely sick to my stomach, and I had to stop. There are medications available which are supposedly quite good at slowing down the progression of the disease, so I'm hoping that we'll still have a good couple years together, but only time will tell. But even a few more years together isn't enough. It can never be enough. I know that at 9 years old, he's already considered to be a senior, but with how happy and healthy he seems, I really thought he'd make it to 15 or 16. I just can't really imagine him rapidly declining in the next year or so. Maybe I'm delusional after all. So while today was supposed to be doggy dental day, and I've just been so looking forward to this day coming and going and being on the other side of that stupid dental procedure, instead I'm taking him in for an echocardiogram this evening. The results will be sent to a cardiologist for review, and then the cardiologist will call me with their findings and the treatment plan and the prognosis. And I'm completely heartbroken. This last week has been terrible. I've cried so much. I really wasn't expecting any of this, not right now. Of course, I'm so happy that he seems to be completely unaffected by it for the time being, but I'm also beating myself up about the fact that maybe I've been running him too hard over the last year or so, and he's had this issue this whole time that I was unaware of, and what if I was making it worse? We're exercise buddies, but I guess now we have to adapt. And as for his teeth, well, the vet isn't even worried about his teeth right now compared to his heart, but the cardiologist will be able to determine if it's safe to put him under anesthesia and do the dental at some point or not. The logical part of my brain knows that most dogs only live to be about 12 or 13, and so realistically, he probably has more time behind him than in front of him at 9 years old now. But he's so happy and full of life that I really believed we were going to get old and gray together. And from the state of my hair, it seems that maybe we are, just a lot sooner than I had expected. And well, if I felt like work was a waste of my life before, I don't even know what to say now. I promise to be back next week with a more happy, upbeat video for you guys. I apologize, this one's a bit of a downer, but it would be completely disingenuous of me to try to make a happy, upbeat video feeling the way that I'm feeling. I'll keep you guys updated on how he's doing, so please subscribe if you want to stay in the loop. You can like this video if you want to like this video. I honestly can't bring myself to care. I'll see you guys next week.
I'm gonna miss you, boy. I thought we were gonna be pals forever.